Picture the most boring injury you can imagine. A scraped knee. A splinter. For almost all of history, any one of them could kill you. It's the quiet reason surgery is survivable. Childbirth routine, and a cut, just a cut. The cure was found by accident, ignored for 12 years, and almost never rescued. Pull that one thread, and the 20th century keeps burying its children. Welcome to the IffyVerse. What if antibiotics were never discovered? To break a world, you first have to see it. For most of history, roughly 1 in 3 children did not live to see their 5th birthday, and the thing killing them, mostly, wasn't hunger or war. It was infection. A strep throat, an infected scrape. As the story is often told, one of the first people ever treated with penicillin was a policeman dying from a simple scratch on a rosebush. That was the ordinary horror, not the plague, the rosebud. But here's the honest part most videos skip. Antibiotics did not, by themselves, build modern life expectancy. The 19th century had already won most of that war. With plumbing, clean water, sewers that went somewhere, vaccines, better food, and yes, if you saw our very first episode, the fertilizer that grew it. By 1928, the great killers were already in retreat. Antibiotics weren't the whole war. They were the last mile. And the idea was in the air. A German doctor, Paul Ehrlich, dreamed of a magic bullet, a chemical that would hunt a germ and leave you alone. In 1932, Gerhard Domek found one, the first sulfa drug. He tested it on his own gravely ill daughter, and she lived. So this isn't a story about one lonely genius without whom we'd have nothing. It's a story about a specific, fragile 12-year accident, and how easily it could simply not have happened. September 1928. Alexander Fleming, a brilliant and famously messy scientist, goes on holiday and leaves his lab a disaster. A single mold spore, drifting up, most likely, from the room below, settles on a plate of bacteria he forgot to put away. When he comes back, the bacteria have grown everywhere, except in a clean, empty ring around the mold. One sometimes finds, he later said, what one is not looking for. It was penicillin. And then Fleming couldn't figure out how to make enough of it, so he wrote it up and moved on. For 12 years, that was it. A curiosity in a journal nobody acted on. Then, on the edge of the Second World War, 3 people at Oxford dug it back up. Howard Florey, the driven boss. Ernst Chain, the brilliant refugee chemist. And Norman Heatley, who grew the mold in a contraption of milk churns and old bedpans, because that's what they had. They proved it worked. American factories, using a moldy cantaloupe from an Illinois market, cracked mass production. Penicillin reached the beaches of D-Day. The footnote had become the most valuable medicine on Earth. And once you can beat infection, everything downstream becomes possible. Surgeons can take real risks. Because the wound won't kill you afterward, which means transplants, open-heart surgery, new hips. Chemotherapy becomes survivable because it wrecks your immune system and antibiotics catch you when you fall. Childbirth stops being a gamble. Quietly, without a parade, humanity is handed the entire back half of the average lifespan. A boring miracle. The best kind. So let's swing the hammer. And we don't even have to be dramatic about it. We don't smash the mold. We don't kill Fleming. We let it play out exactly as it did. The accident, the clear ring, the shrug. And this time, nobody in Oxford ever digs it back up. The footnote stays a footnote. What breaks? First, the honest part again. You do not get the apocalypse. This matters. Clean water still works. Sewers still work. Vaccines still work. They stop the disease before it starts and need no antibiotic at all. So the Great Plagues stay caged. The world of the 1950s still, mostly, functions. What you lose isn't civilization. What you lose is quieter and stranger and it lives in the space between sick and better. Because the coin flip comes back. In our timeline, an infected cut is an inconvenience. You take a pill, you complain, you forget. In this one, it's a wager. Most of the time, you win. Sometimes, for no reason you'll ever understand, you don't. The same scratch, the same week, one person shrugs it off, one doesn't. Medicine can name the thing killing you with beautiful precision. It just can't stop it. Diagnosis without a cure is its own special cruelty. And it lands hardest on the smallest people. In this timeline, you raise children the way almost every human generation before 1940 did. Loving them completely, and quietly bracing to lose one or two. Families stay larger, partly because not everyone is expected to make it. Every fever in the night is a real question. It is not that people love their kids less. It's that the world makes them carry a fear that we, blessedly, have almost entirely forgotten. That's the piece we deleted. Not the drug. The forgetting. Now walk it up the ladder. Without antibiotics to catch the fall, the boldest medicine never gets built. Organ transplants, where doctors deliberately switch off your immune system, become suicide. Chemotherapy is far too dangerous to push hard. Deep surgery stays a desperate last resort instead of a Tuesday. The whole cathedral of modern medicine has no foundation to stand on. It just never gets built. The ceiling of what a body can survive drops, and stays dropped. The battlefields change too. For most of history, the wound didn't kill the soldier. The infection 3 days later did. Keep that, and every war runs a grimmer arithmetic. Crowds get riskier, because crowds share germs. So the dense, elbow-to-elbow modern city is a little more dangerous to live in. Nobody bombs a timeline into existence over this. It just tilts, everywhere, slightly, toward caution. And it clears up a famous misunderstanding. People say folks used to die at 40. They didn't, really. The low average was dragged down by all those lost children. Survived to adulthood and you had a decent shot at your 60s. In this timeline, that stays true. A life expectancy number that looks apocalyptic, hiding a crowd of grandparents and a graveyard of the very young. The old still grow old. The young just don't reliably become them. And here's the cruel rhyme with our very first episode. Fertilizer grew the food to feed a record-breaking crowd of human beings. Antibiotics are what let that crowd survive its own scraped knees. In this timeline, we grew the people. And then couldn't keep them. The nursery is full and the churchyard is busy. And both of those facts are running off the same century. So the thing we actually lose isn't a technology. It's an assumption. You, right now, move through the world assuming that most mistakes are survivable. That a scratch, a bug, a bad week gets a second chance. Delete the little pills, and you delete the second chance. And a species that has always, secretly, been playing for keeps, goes back to knowing it. Here's the thing about antibiotics. They are the least glamorous miracle we have. Nobody dreams of them. Nobody writes songs about the pill that made a scratch boring again. But that boredom, the sheer, magnificent nothing that happens now when a kid skins a knee, is one of the youngest and most fragile achievements of our entire species. It is younger than jazz. Kill the mold, and the world doesn't end. It just goes back to holding its breath. History doesn't only run on calories, and conversation, and treats. It runs on second chances, the quiet faith that you'll get another one. New sign on the post, one little dish for the shelf. And for once, be grateful this timeline stayed boring. The next one is already loading.